Video 6 on systems thinking. This graph by Kaiser Permanente gives us a different approach to systems thinking. When we look at the number of resources and costs and a huge amount of money that's being invested in healthcare, yet it only affects 10% of our health and well-being. Are we really investing our resources as a nation in the right area? Maybe we should be looking at behavior and how do we change it. What's interesting, in his book, Salt, Sugar, and Fat, How the Food Industry Hooked Us, Michael Moss has defined a process that the food industry takes to optimize the taste of food. And he calls that the bliss point. The bliss point's achieved by adding either salt, sugar, or fat to a product so that it reaches a point where it is at its optimal flavor. Not too much more is added, because then that would be wasted resources. And so with that diminishing return, they find that bliss point, and they know exactly how many resources of salt, sugar, fat they have to add to a food to make it addicting. Now consider that our corn supply as a nation had been transformed into high fructose corn syrup back in the 1970s, 1980s. It's a very less expensive sweetener, but take a look at our diabetes rates and see if there's any correlation in that area. So changing behavior is interesting, but I also look at other sources of bad health, and why do we have such a rise in diabetes in the last 3 or 4 decades, and how come it didn't exist before? Because our genetic code hasn't changed much. Our behavior has changed a lot. Our social behavior has changed a lot as we've moved away from our families and we've increased our presence on social media. And of course, our environment. Is it safe? Is your environment safe enough to have a healthy walk in the evening, or is it an environment that requires police protection at night? How far is the closest green space? But in this next system thinking, as you go into your career, think about the social determinants of health and see what we can do to upstream using resources to change our behaviors, change our environment for the healthy, and to socialize among family and friends.